Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you today. I guess if I had taken another path, I'd be sitting out there with y'all. I'm probably one of the few in here, or maybe not, maybe more in the group than I think. How many of you ever participated in a soil judging contest? I didn't win. Had the foggiest idea what the hell I was looking at. But my 4-H county agent, get in there, Russ, you can do that. You know good soil when you see it, boy. So it was up at LSU, Alexandria, where he went out on a Saturday morning. It was cold, and we got down in these holes looking at this soil, determined the best soil. As I said, that's the end of that story. I didn't win, knew I didn't want to be an agronomist. That was not in the work. I guess the other unusual thing I did growing up was I won a dairy judging contest. I had a good eye for cows, as they might say. And that took me out of the United States for the first time. And another unusual thing I tell people up north about, and the boys that went to West Point, is I went to a forestry camp where we could look at a tree and figure how many board feet in it. And that's normally a pretty good nostalgic story to tell when they're plenty drunk. It's a sad story when you're not drinking. Speaking of that, while you're in Louisiana, enjoying New Orleans, follow the battle buddy. Keep your battle buddy with you. It's going to happen. You're going to go out to eat late, and you're going to end up in a nice place, and somebody will have too many hurricanes, and they'll look around and say, we want to listen to some real jazz. Take them home with you. Or tomorrow morning, you'll read about them in the paper. Some guy from the Midwest found naked in the alley looking for real jazz. Last seen with some dude with a funny hat on, going to escort him to where real. Stay with your battle buddies. Don't leave a soldier behind. Is that a good line there? Leave no one behind, and you're going to be all right. You'll enjoy the city, and you'll go back. Well, we're off to a great start, as you could tell from Leadership National setting the watch, putting the compass out there. But let me tell you, if I don't say something here this morning that pissed you off, I hadn't done my job. If I don't say something that challenged you, I hadn't done my job. I live in Louisiana. We're losing land every day. Coastal erosion from sea level rise to exploration canals that were left open that allow saltwater intrusion. We're suffering from about 65,000 abandoned oil wells we know about. We got issues. We got challenges. But that's why we're here. Because we're going to have to do some things in America and in the world that many people will conceive to be impossible. And I would tell you, our future is dependent on us doing the impossible. You hear me? We don't have an option. We're going to have to change. Now, the greatest generation did a lot of great things, but boy, did they screw up a lot of shit. I mean, they did. A lot of the opportunities we got in education and in state highways, that was a beautiful thing. development of the country and the world after World War II. It is great stuff. But it's going to be up to this next generation to do what? We got to fix some things. You heard about our national forest here in Louisiana. We have the largest swamp in North America, the Chaffalaya. You may not be able to pronounce it, but it's a beautiful place. You can go so deep into it, traveling between here and Lafayette. You go south, down towards St. Mary, through those places down there. Some of them you can't pronounce myself. And you stop your car, and you hear nothing. Well, don't hear nothing. You hear birds, and you hear frogs, and gators. That's how quiet it is. Biggest swamp in North America. Well, you might say, well, General, we're glad we got that. Go down there and look at the pollution in it, and it's a crying damn shame. Abandoned oil wells, pipeline running through it that disrupt the flow of water. And a lot has been done by those who have been working this issue. But look, folks, we got a lot more need to be done. And some of the things we do is like yin and yang. We had a governor a few years ago come up with the bright-ass idea he was going to sell wood chips to Europe. So we cut the damn trees down. Everybody get a tax break. The wood chips go to Europe, and they get tax credit. And what do we end up with? It looked like a good idea. But I don't think it's sustainable. It looked like a good idea. We've been for years taking corn and making it into fuel. Up front, it looked like a good idea. I don't think it's sustainable. Go ask the people in Egypt. It changed the damn government in Egypt when the price of corn went up. You say, well, that's got to do with us, General. When the price of corn go up, guess what happened to food around the damn world? It's a good idea. Just because we can do it don't mean we should do it. And as conservationists, we need to look, not play checkers. We need to be playing chess. Because there will be many prophets come before good ideas and say, this is good for the environment, General. This is good for the environment. And I'm not going to lie, after I left the Army, I became an environmentalist. I was trained to be a farmer. Went to school at Rosenwald High School. I was the president of the NFA and the 4-H Club. Went to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and got a degree in vocational agriculture. I was trained to be a county agent. And that's why I had all those strange and unusual experiences as a youth. And that's probably why I went in the Army and stayed there. But one thing the Army told me is the thing that makes a difference in any situation is leadership. And that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today. Next slide. I don't pretend to be an expert at what you do. But living in Louisiana, we live with the results of it every day. Climate change. It's here. It's real. Some of it is permanent. And the challenge of going from 7 to 10 billion people to raise 30% more food by 2050 on less arable land, with 50% of our aquifers in the Midwest overused and destroyed. Everybody south of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, drink water out of the Mississippi River. Guess what 31 states north of here do? They flushed the damn toilet in it. And between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, there's 150 chemical plants that as of last week, all of them exceeding their TMDL of what they're putting in that river. And points up north, the protein and phosphorus and other runoff from fields and streams and bayous and cornfields. When that protein hit the Gulf of Mexico, it's created over a 3,000 square mile dead zone. We got people over at Tulane University here with some grants from some well-meaning folks who are trying to find a solution to that dead zone. There's agricultural practices that are being encouraged using technology that all of you are familiar with. Put fertilizer on this part of the field, you don't need none over here. We got to optimize technology. Because if we keep doing the same thing over and over, what's going to happen in that dead zone out in the Gulf? Why should we be worried about that dead zone in the Gulf? Why should we be worried about that? Absolutely. And it affects the ecosystem. Everything in there dies. And as it expands, 35% of our seafood come out the Gulf. May not look that way, but the fact is, this thing called climate change is real. And again, the challenge is, how do we go from 7 to 10 billion people in the world and feed them on less arable land? We've got to expand this idea of urban forestry. We got to stop doing dumb shit like using more water on lawns in America than we use on damn corn. Yeah, I know it's an urban industry. I got a text on Saturday. The guy from the quarterly, I forget the name of the company, but they come by and they put stuff on my lawn every quarter, whether it needs it or not. We'll be buying money to put our late winter application. I don't need that. I fell into the trap. I live in the subdivision where everybody is over-fertilizing their damn yard. And as soon as we go 3 days without rain, the rainbirds come on and we start watering it. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard of in my life. We have to challenge conventional wisdom. Last year, I raised a 25-foot row of arch potatoes in my backyard and an equal-sized row of okra. And the golfers would come by and they'd say, "Hey, General, what is that?" I said, "That's okra and potatoes." "Is that what potatoes look like?" "No, they don't look like that. That's just a plant." We need to encourage planting more trees. We need to encourage planting more trees. I hope, Mr. President, you leave here with challenge in every district on how many million trees they're going to plant. Because I'm telling you, we got people deliberately cutting our damn trees down and cutting them into little pellets that look like rabbit food, putting it in ships and shipping it to Europe. And they say, "Well, we're using Sustainable energy. Sustainable my ass. How you take an 80-year-old tree and say it's sustainable? It don't make sense. This is a competitive business, and things change, folks. They do change. We've got to change. We're still shipping lettuce from California to Chicago so they could have a Cobb salad today. How stupid is that shit? When 98% of a lettuce is what? Water. We can raise lettuce in Chicago. We can get into urban farming. And there's some great tales right here in Louisiana. You see some of the restaurants you go to, they farm to table. Many of them right over here on the North Shore, my hands off to them. And it's becoming to be a cultural thing. People want to know. The young folks, they look at the app before they go to a restaurant. Now, were these chickens outside chilling under the tree? Because I don't want my chicken having gone through any trauma. What the hell you think that killing was they put that chicken on your table? Hello? We got folks with 5 or 6 acres of ground, don't have one damn chicken on it. And complaining about paying $6 a dozen for egg. Get you some damn chickens. We got work to do, but there are opportunities there, folks. We've got to change the way we think. If we were sitting here 30 years ago, what would this room kind of look like? What would be in the environment? What would be on every table? Ashtrays and what else? Pipes and even cigars. Shit, when I was in the Army as a major at Fort Leavenworth in the 80s, the smokers sat in the back. I rode on an airplane from Spain in the late 80s, and the smoker sat in the back and the non-smoker sat in the front. Now, how the hell stupid was that? We changed, right? We had a cultural shift. If you saw a movie and the actress wasn't smoking, it wasn't cool, right? We need a cultural shift in America. But among us, there are people that are profit-driven. It's a part of our culture. I'm a capitalist myself. But some of the stuff we're doing is not sustainable. We're over-fertilizing lawns. We're over-watering lawns. We ought to make it a law not to even be able to water a damn lawn. If you want to see a lawn, go to a zoo. We're doing untold damage to our aquifers and the water runoff. And we got a terrible problem with drinking water, folks. Let me tell you, of the 1,200 drinking water systems in Louisiana, over 400 of them are at risk. You know, we still got people in Louisiana drinking brown water. And we put a man on the moon, won the Super Bowl, got interstate, got electric cars. You with me? Shoot down Chinese balloons every day. And we still got people drinking brown water. That's a crying damn shame. We got great work to do. What I'm glad to see is, unlike most big group, national groups, there are young people in this crowd. You with me? That's encouraging. There are young people in this crowd who will have learned from the elders who've got us this far when we talk about conservation. Right now in Baton Rouge, city flooded in 2016. Since 2016, they've approved about 10 more subdivisions in wetlands. What in the shit are we doing building in wetlands? Can somebody explain that to me? Oh, don't worry about it, John. We got a mitigation, and they're going to put a pond in. A pond, my ass, the pond going to fill up too. And I tell all of you as you go out and you advise your kids where they're going to build and buy a house, there's some things I tell my nieces and nephews after what I saw doing Katrina, Rita, and growing up in Louisiana. If you buy a house on Bayou Road, River Road, waterfront, your ass is going to flood. Beachfront. There's another one, a sneaky one out there called the reservoir. Why you think they only find a few Native American artifacts in that area? It's called a reservoir. I've got a friend of mine, I said, honey, you bought a house here. I said, where you bought your house? Waterloo. Not a good name, honey. Not a good name. And we keep building in wetlands. People say, well, don't worry about it, General. The Planning and Zoning Board approve it. The Planning and Zoning Board approve a damn ham sandwich. If you keep building in the wetlands, guess what's going to happen? If you keep building to the forest that don't have water lines running out front, guess what's going to happen? You're going to burn. We've defied logic in some ways. In other ways, we've continued some of the same old practice. Right here in Louisiana, Louisiana is a significant state when you look at the commerce of this nation. 50% of the barges in America are in Louisiana on any given day, with about 43% of our export leaving out the ports of Louisiana. Isn't that a big deal? That's a big deal. Those ports are at risk because of the changing depths of the Mississippi River. We're not investing in our ports. Our economy thrives on the fact that we do exports and do imports. Our West and East Coast ports are at risk. The Mississippi River is at risk. We got the Ole Miss control structure about 100 miles north here in my home parish of Point Capee, Louisiana. It's at risk. And if we lose it, it could change the direction of the Mississippi River. We got great work to do. The challenges are many. But I told you at the beginning, if I didn't say something to you that made you a little angry, beside the curse words, I had not done my job. Because if all you wanted to do was come here and feel good, you could have stayed the hell home. You came here to sharpen your knife, right? To sharpen your saw. You don't sharpen a knife with a cloth, you use a stone. And we've got to put some heat and pressure on our government people. And the old saying in the Army, the only difference between charcoal and diamond is heat and pressure. We've got to expose them when they cut backdoor deals that approve destroying another wetlands. Wetlands do what? They hold water. They're part of our estuary. And we got one going on right now. If you go out just past the airport, when you fly out there, see one called Lake Maupaw. And some old boys with some engineering degree from way up, I don't know where, said, well, we're going to go out in the middle of this lake that we hadn't done any oil exploration in 50 years. It's a recreation, it's an estuary for catfish and other wildlife. And we're going to dig subterranean about 6 miles, and we're going to shoot some carbon down there and see what happens. See what happened? What the hell? We already lost Bayou Corn and Bayou Bell down there in Ascension Parish because we went and messed with a salt dome. A salt dome was a natural occurring ecological under the ground, and we decided we wanted to take the salt water out of it and ship it to China or some damn place. We broke the salt dome. We broke something made by God that we can't recreate. And guess what? The regulatory agency at the state told the company not to do it. They did it anyway. Because y'all understand this is about commerce. You get your country ass out of the way, we're going to do this. And guess what? Nobody went to jail. You with me? That's why I said we got work to do, folks. Now, there's 3 points on leadership. I got 4 minutes and 29 seconds left. And I want to talk to you about leadership because leadership is what makes the difference. This here's a picture of General Washington fighting the British in 1776. It's Christmas. His army is just about defeated. They haven't won a battle. The British is encamped across the river. It's Christmas. Can you imagine what that sounds like? You tell the troops, hey, we're going to attack. Because the British soldiers and the mercenaries that came with him, they had just gotten their rum ration for the holiday. And the sucker's going to be drunk. So George, he attacks. He didn't have everything he needed. In your mission, you'll never have everything you need. You'll never have all the time you want. You got to adapt and damn overcome. And you got to do some trickery. You got to trick some of these people to get them to do the right thing. George took these men. They were not properly trained. Many of them were farmers and bricklayers and shoemakers, and created them into a team. And the reason he got them into a team is they all were fighting for one thing, freedom. At the end of the war, 20% of Washington's army were African Americans. They were not free, and they weren't free after the revolution. They're told they will be free, but they weren't. He got everybody to buy into the mission of freedom. 6 months before this battle, the Declaration of Independence was written. One of the most powerful documents ever written in the history of mankind, besides what we know in the Bible. It feared King George III. When he read it, he told the people of England, pray that the words of the Declaration of Independence would never come to fruition, because he knew it would be the end of his form of government. And on this night, not properly equipped, not properly trained, they crossed this river and they killed and captured nearly 1,000 British soldiers, thereby keeping the revolution alive. They didn't win the war that night, but they won a battle. And for another 5 years or so, they fought. We got to embrace the impossible, folks. And how do we do that? We got to do the routine things well. At the local level, some of you sit out there and you look at them permits coming through. And you're looking at some of this new development. You know it's going to have a negative impact on our environment. We got to speak up. Do the routine things well. The other thing is embrace the impossible. These people weren't afraid of the impossible because of what? They had a mission. They were not properly paid. If they got injured, there were no ambulances or air ambulances to take them off the battlefield. They're more likely to die from the cold weather as they were from their wounds. But they learn to sacrifice. If you're going to do this work, you've got to sacrifice, and that's what leaders do. Leaders sacrifice. Now, there's a lot of these high-end Northeast schools on this business of management. And I don't got nothing against management. Understand me well. But I praise leaders. Managers will tell you why you can't do it. Well, according to the regulation in the 1890 Land Act, somehow this church out of California or out of New York came down here and bought 10,000 acres of wetlands in Louisiana in 1890 when the legislature, with their dumb ass, decided to sell our wetlands. You know what Louisiana would have been like if we didn't sell our wetlands? They sold it for 12 cents an acre. That was a damn crime. 12 cents an acre they sold it for. And somehow that land stood. Over 50% of our Title 16 land, nobody know what happened to it. Y'all know what Title 16 land is? You know what Title 13 land is? Huh? It's land bequeathed from the Congress to every township for school boards. Everywhere you live in America, if you live in a county, they're putting aside thousands of acres for the future to support the school boards. And the only way that land can be sold is by a vote of the people. And I can take you to a parish in Louisiana that's got run-down, beat-out schools, teachers not being paid, and guess what the local parish government did? Sold the damn land. Mississippi took their land back. We're Mississippi people. Haley Barber said, we ain't standing for that shit. He took the land back. All of you live in counties. Nobody know what happened to that land. And some of it had industrial parks and everything else on it. So again, I'm going to close now. 3 points of leadership. We've got time for a few questions. I'm going to be here till noon. I brought books with me. Stop by. We can chat and talk. Get a book if you like. And the last point is we've got to be prepared to deal with change. Number one was do the routine things well. Number two, embrace the impossible. If you go back home, you need to have a list on your wall what's impossible in the space you're operating in. Because we've got to challenge the workers to do what? Embrace impossible. And the third, be prepared to deal with change. People don't like change. Matter of fact, there are people back in your office, you know what they saying? I wonder what Jeremy gonna come back with this time. You know, last time him and Martha went to that damn conference, we had to read that damn book, Move My Cheese. Oh, the 7 wonders of good management. They all sitting back home wondering what the hell you gonna come back with. Don't disappoint them. Create your mission of what's impossible. Don't disappoint them. People don't like change. Free your hands up for a minute. I'm going to give you a military-style order. Everybody ready? I'm in pigeon. I'm not too much on your time because I started a little late. I'm going to give you a military-style order. Your hands are free. Cross your arms now. You ought to be feeling pretty good. You're hugging your favorite person, you. Now look down at your arms and put the other arm on top. That's some weird shit in it. Relax. Give yourself a round of applause. You've done good. Now, there's two things about that. I told you something, a very aggressive way to do something, right? And I told you how to do it, right? So remember, if you're going to create change, you gotta ease it, and you gotta socialize the idea. Sometimes just a rumor will help. Because people don't want to be caught like Monday morning change. People want to know, next week we're going to rearrange the office. Oh, hell. You got to let them get that out there and say, look, we need to rearrange the office. Y'all figure it out, and then I'll come back and talk to y'all. Y'all tell me how we do it to achieve what I want. You see what I'm doing? People don't like to be told, and they don't like to be surprised. I think we got time for a few questions. I'm going to defer to the boss. Thank you very much. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Woo! Hell yeah, we got work to do.
Thank you, General. We do have time for a question or two, so the audience's pleasure.
General, this is Gary Blair from Mississippi. I had the opportunity to visit with you early and know some of your family members in Baton Rouge. But as you talked about your 4-H time and your FFA and growing up in a kind of a rural area. Talked about your 1890 Southern University. What do you contribute to your career in the Army and how you had such a successful career to become a 3-star general?
Well, I think much of that background, growing up in a family of 12 and growing up on a subsistence farm where you understood that if you wanted something, you worked for it. And the harder you work, the more stuff you got. Now, we were poor. I didn't see my first dentist till I went to the Army. We were poor. We had one little old drop light. I remember my daughter asking my dad, I was born in the storm of September 1947. And I guess she was 8 or 9, full of questions, said, well, where was Dad born? Speaking to me, he said, well, he was born right up there in the front room. Well, how did y'all, September, it must have been hot. Yeah, it was hot. We had a draw fan. Any of y'all know what a damn draw fan is? Big old fan, they pull one and they leave the rack and everybody get a little breeze. Then what happened during the hurricane? He said, well, it worked out. We had coal oil lamps to back up when the power went out. But what did y'all eat? Well, we had a garden. And we had pigs and we had chickens. And sometime after the hurricane, believe it or not, in my community, you ended up with a few more pigs and a few more chickens than you had before. Because all the people that lived down in next to the bayou, guess what happened? They flooded. Their pigs came to us. So sometimes we were able to plus up on pigs. But life was different then. And people knew how to adapt and overcome. I tell the story, sometime my son went to Woodward Academy in Atlanta. And I see them little old boys, they'd be going back and forth. I said, you know, if a storm came or the lights went out in Atlanta, and for some reason they had 4 or 5 chickens around there, you know what them little boys would think? How can we find some food to feed the chicken? 2 generations ago, we said, there's dinner. They're trying to save the chicken. There's dinner. Well, let's find out where these chickens sleeping and go get some eggs. Folks, we're in a time warp. We got boomers here who think we can develop everything, right? And they brought us a long way. We come a long way in 2 generations. From a horse and buggy to spacecraft, right? But some of that was ill-conceived. We created some, as an Army general, we created some hell of a weapons. Weapons that can destroy the world. We don't know what the hell to do with them. And we hang on to them. That can destroy the world. Next generation, y'all got some tough stuff to figure out. But thanks for asking that question. I do think attending an A&M college, HBCU college, made a difference. And oh, by the way, y'all can use some old people of color up in here. Obama didn't fix that shit. But y'all can fix it. Get some more. Get some more. They're going to be good for us. Trust me.
Do we have another question for the General?
Yes, hello, General. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I've been to 5 annual meetings as a staff member of this association, and by far, this has been one of the best opening speeches. And you've told us about your book, and you've told us a lot about great leadership principles, and we do have a program with NACD where we have several up-and-coming leaders, so congrats to them. But in your perspective, what are some of the strengths of an individual that one may need to be a good leader and carry forward those 3 principles you mentioned?
Yeah, that's a good question. Remember, as a leader, your audio and your video has to match. Y'all got that one? You can't say one thing and go around doing something else. As a leader, you have to have an ethical mantra about you. And one of the ones I teach the young officers on, if you don't want to see it on the front page of the paper, don't do it. And as the people in Washington, D.C. learn every week, there are no secrets. Somebody know that dumb shit you done done. There are no secrets. If you can teach those young leaders that we got good hard work to do, and you're going to go home and argue with your grandpa and grandma, they will not see why we need to stop building in wetlands. You with me? They will not see why we need to cut back on the amount of carbon-based fuels we use. And that's okay. They argued with their grandparents. My grandfather wouldn't let us get rid of mules because he said the tractor, when we went across the fields to open the drainage road, destroyed too much crop. He said, as long as I'm alive, them 2 damn Missouri mules gonna be here because this is how I'm gonna open the water drains. Do y'all understand? And he would slap his hand on the table. And 2 weeks after Papa died, them mules went to the damn sailboat. You're gonna have some arguments at Thanksgiving over this. If you're not having them, you're not doing what the nation and what the world needs. When we go from 7 to 10 billion people, we're going to have to create more food on less land. We're going to have to figure out how we clean water, which we ain't doing nearly enough of that. All them rich guys who want to go shoot their ass into space and need to figure out how we're going to clean water.
I have a question.
General, we have time for
Question.
one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. General, I really enjoyed your presentation on leadership. My name is Louis Goins. I'm from Mississippi.
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 I was in Jackson 2 weeks ago.
My question to you, I agree with you. People don't like change, and they rebel against change. But my question is on the political side. As a general, and I know you work with presidents all over the United States, and my question, what do you think, as a general, what do you think of the present political landscape in Washington, D.C.?
Oh, hell, man. You know, if y'all wasn't sober, I could tell you. It's an absolute shit show. Good luck, America.